So now, because Tom Brady has won Super Bowl 55, everyone's going to come out here and try to tear down Bill Belichick in hopes of boosting up Tom Brady's legacy because they think Tom Brady's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They think that Tom Brady's a god. And listen, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, but I really don't understand what people get out of trying to boost up another player's legacy to tear down another player or a coach. I really don't understand what people get out of, arguing who deserves more credit, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady. I really, quite frankly, don't give a rip just because they both deserve a ton of credit. So, look, in the past, I've stated I believe Bill Belichick deserves a little bit more credit for the Patriots dynasty than Tom Brady. And to this day, I stand by that. But that's a story and a segment for another day. And by the way, I'm not one of those people that said Tom Brady was ever a system quarterback. All I said is just give Bill Belichick a little bit more credit than you are giving him for the Patriots dynasty. But like I said, that's a story for another day. What I want to do today is this. I want to go out here on a limb and give Tom Brady the appropriate credit that I believe he deserves for the New England Patriots 20-year dynasty. And I want to do the same thing for Bill Belichick. I want to give Bill Belichick and Tom Brady the equal amount of credit for what happened in New England. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list off what Bill Belichick deserves the most credit for as far as what happened in New England and what Tom Brady deserves the most credit for as far as what happened in New England during their 20-year dynasty. So let's get started. So what does Bill Belichick deserve the most credit for? To me, what Bill Belichick deserves the most credit for was putting Tom Brady in a position on so many different occasions to where he has an opportunity to close out games in the fourth quarter. What you have to understand about Bill Belichick is this. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He's a defensive mastermind, one of the best defensive minds the NFL has ever seen as far as being a defensive coordinator, being a defensive-minded head coach. And Bill Belichick, in my opinion, is most responsible for allowing Tom Brady to have 8 top 5 defenses during a 20-year stretch in New England. Meanwhile, he also was able to give Tom Brady 16 top 10 defenses during his 20 years with the New England Patriots. And what does having a great defense do for a quarterback? It takes the pressure off of a quarterback, okay? Because what does having a great defense allow you to do? It allows you to have more extra possessions because if you're getting teams off the field on third down, that gives the offense more opportunities to go out there and score some points. And you can get away with that with having an off night if your defense is constantly holding teams to under 30 points per game. Okay, look at the Super Bowl versus the LA Rams a couple of years ago as a prime example. The LA Rams were the number 1 scoring offense in the entire NFL, and Bill Belichick and that defense shut that offense down. And Tom Brady and the New England Patriots offense only scored 13 points in that game, but guess what? The Rams offense only scored 3 points in that game. So Bill Belichick has allowed Tom Brady to have not the greatest games sometimes in the playoffs and get away with it because his defense is able to bail Tom Brady out and take the pressure off of him. Bill Belichick also was the ultimate disciplinary head coach. He always had his teams prepared. It's very rare that you saw the Patriots be unprepared and unbuttoned up for these playoff games. Rarely do these playoff games get out of hand when Bill Belichick was running the show with Tom Brady as well. And here's a fun fact that you people might not know. In 41 career playoff games, between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, where they were both together as the head coach and quarterback in New England, only 5 times did a Bill Belichick-led team give up 30 or more points in a playoff game. So in 88% of Tom Brady's playoff games in New England, Bill Belichick did not allow the opposing team to score 30 or more points. That is astonishing. And also, Bill Belichick, he was the general manager in New England. He was the guy that constructed all those rosters and great teams. And Bill Belichick, he's the guy that gets the most out of his players. He built the perfect team around Tom Brady. He took swings in free agency. He managed the cap situation very well. He was able to trade for some players. He took on some players that had big personalities, like Randy Moss, and got the most out of them. But most importantly, Bill Belichick, day in and day out, challenged Tom Brady to be the best version of himself. And some coaches do not hold star players accountable. Tom Brady was held accountable time in and time out in New England because Bill Belichick was a great head coach. He did not put Tom Brady above the team. And I ultimately think that really helped benefit Tom Brady, and it really motivated Tom Brady to get better and better every single day, because Bill Belichick is not going to hand you things on a silver platter, okay? He's going to make you go out there and earn your starting job every single year. He's going to go out there and coach you hard, coach you tough, whether you like it or not, because it's going to make you a better player. So that is what Bill Belichick contributed to as far as the New England Patriots dynasty, in my opinion. That's the things that he deserves the most credit for, and the things that he was the most responsible for. Now let's look at Tom Brady. What was Tom Brady most responsible for? Tom Brady is most responsible for delivering in the clutch, time in and time out, when it mattered most, okay? Everyone talks about how, Bill Belichick could have won multiple Super Bowls with Drew Brees and Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes. If you give Bill Belichick those quarterbacks, they can win 5, 6, or 7 rings. And in these big games, when you look at Drew Brees, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, and now even Patrick Mahomes, due to the fact that Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls has combined to throw for 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in the biggest game possible, these guys at times were lesser versions of themselves when it mattered most in big games. Drew Brees is a 500 quarterback in the playoffs. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Peyton Manning is barely above 500 in the playoffs. And Patrick Mahomes, I just talked about him enough said, okay? Here's the thing, people. Tom Brady in big games, more times than not, when these guys are a lesser version of themselves, in the highest leverage moments, Tom Brady rises above and beyond the pressure. There are some guys that elevate under pressure, that stay the same under pressure, and that shrink under pressure. Usually, you don't see Tom Brady shrinking under pressure. Sure, in certain situations, he might stink up the joint and get bailed out by the defense. I'm not trying to say that he deserves all the credit for the rings that he's received, because there were some years where the defense definitely bailed him out, but more times than not, Tom Brady at bare minimum is going to at least stay the same under pressure. He more times than not looks normal under pressure. And in the Super Bowls that he's won, more times than not, he elevates under pressure when it matters most. And Bill Belichick always put Tom Brady more times than not, roughly 8 to 9 times out of 10. Bill Belichick put Tom Brady in a position to where in the fourth quarter, the game is closed. It's late in the game might be tied, or it might be a one-possession game. The game is there for the taking. That's what Bill Belichick provided for Tom Brady. But Tom Brady, usually 8 to 9 times out of 10, he's going to close that deal out, and he's going to win the game for you. And also, I think Tom Brady deserves a ton of credit for getting the most out of marginal players at times. We could talk about the fact that Tom Brady has had Rob Gronkowski to throw to, the greatest tight end of all time. He's had Randy Moss for a little while in New England for a couple of seasons. He has had Julian Edelman, a former Super Bowl MVP. He had Wes Welker in his prime, who was an underrated wide receiver. But outside of those guys, Tom Brady has turned a lot of average and marginal wide receivers into big names, okay? Well, maybe not necessarily big names, but he's put up great production with not always elite targets at wide receiver. The one thing that Bill Belichick sort of at times failed to do in New England was constantly give Tom Brady elite weapons, while Belichick would more times than not spend money on the defense, on the offensive line, or on the special teams. He sometimes failed to give Tom Brady elite wide receivers to throw to. And you got to give Tom Brady a lot of credit for really getting the most out of those guys because, listen, Belichick was going to do his thing on defense, but offense isn't always his specialty. So that's how I feel about that. And last but not least, Tom Brady deserves a lot of credit for taking pay cuts during his career. Now, the first time Tom Brady was able to get a big, massive contract, he became the highest paid player in all football. A lot of people don't talk about that. But after Tom Brady got his big, fat contract the first time around, after that, he was taking pay cut after pay cut after pay cut after pay cut to say, hey, Bill Belichick, look, I trust you, okay? Go get me star players on defense. Go get me, a good offensive line. Go get me good players that's going to help me win. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time. Do you know how much money Tom Brady could have made playing football in his career? And I'm not saying Tom Brady hasn't made a lot of money playing football in his career because he has. But Tom Brady recognized the big picture. He recognized, okay, if I become the highest paid quarterback every single year, sure, that'd be nice. But instead, I'm going to sacrifice my salary to allow the organization to put good players around me. And look, I'm not trying to advocate for all other star quarterbacks to do that because I'm not the type of person to tell people what to do with their money. There's a lot of people out there that want to do, really cool things and, explore and go through adventures. And there are a lot of aspirational people out there. So I'll be the last person to say that star quarterbacks need to be taking discounts. That's the last thing that you'll hear me say. And also, football is a very violent sport to a point where you're putting your body on the line every single time you go out there on the football field. People forget that when you play football, people are trying to tear your head off and get you to the ground, okay? So I understand the business decisions 1,000%. But I'm also going to applaud the quarterbacks that take the time and go out their way to say, hey, it's bigger than money for me. I want to win championships. I'm all about winning. Give me star players. I'll take a pay cut. I trust my organization to help me out. So that's the one thing that people don't give Tom Brady enough credit for as far as what happened in New England. So there you have it. That's your Tom Brady and Bill Belichick comparison as far as who deserves the most credit for certain aspects of the New England Patriots becoming a 20-year dynasty. And in reality, people, let's just give Bill Belichick and Tom Brady close to an equal amount of credit because Tom Brady's elite and Bill Belichick is also elite, and we should not take that away from them. Not at all. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.